Hi, my name is Tara, and this is my video on coming out with mental illness. I don't even know how to go about starting off for a video like this. I would just like to start off this video by stating that it's not easy to make a video like this. I'm not crying for help. I've already done that. A lot of people just don't understand issues regarding mental illness. I don't want anyone to think that I'm making things up for this video. Obviously, if you can relate to some of these issues in this video, then you will know that I'm not making it up. Mental illness is a very real thing. This is the first time that I'm actually openly admitting that I have something wrong with me. I have chosen not to come forward in the past regarding the issues that I struggle with because there is such a lack of understanding from people. All seriousness aside, forgive me. I am not wearing any makeup today. I have not done my hair. The last 48 hours has been a recovery process regarding a complete mental health breakdown. This channel was originally supposed to be for makeup and beauty, but honestly, I believe that it was just a cover-up for everything that I've been going through over the last year. I started my channel last year on November 16th, and it has been an incredible experience, but I've been going through a lot of things on the back end behind the scenes regarding my health. Most people don't know about my traumas unless you are my husband or unless you are an individual who played a proactive role during that time of trauma. I have lived through extreme and unimaginable circumstances. I've lived through some pretty weird and messed up situations, and I choose not to harp on it because I'm trying to live as a normal life as possible. But this is a part of my story. This is a part of my testimony. Whether it be good or bad, I'm not seeking attention or looking for drama. If you can't relate to this video, or if you have nothing but negativity and hate to spread, please click out of this video now. This is a calm and safe place. You are free to leave your comments, ask questions. No one is allowed to tell you how to feel or what to say. Please spread love and not hate. Leave me a comment if you can relate. That was pretty dumb. Throughout this video, you're going to hear a lot of different things that has happened in my life, and I am not speaking for anyone or on their behalf in this video. I'm only speaking on the behalf of myself and the experiences that I have gone through. But this is my story. It's a real life spiritual warfare battle that I face every single day, and I feel compelled to share it with you because I know I'm not the only one. I've struggled with these thoughts for many, many years, and it wasn't until recently that things started getting worse. For those of you who have been following me, thank you so much for your love, your support, your encouragement, your prayers. I have never felt more comfortable or confident and able to speak about these things in my life. And for that, I just want to say thank you so much for helping me to establish a very safe and welcoming community here. Some of you might know, if you've been subscribed to this channel and following me for a certain amount of time, that I have been going through an extensive health journey, trying to figure out exactly what's wrong with me. 2.5 years ago, my life changed dramatically. I was in a car accident. I'm not going to go into much detail regarding my car accident. If you want more information, there's other videos on my channel where I've talked about this in depth before. But for right now, I'm just going to catch you up to speed as to what's been going on in my life recently. Over the last 2 years, I've lost 117 pounds completely unexplained. I have been experiencing repressed memories and blackouts as well as a little bit of things that have been irritating me within my own personality, and I will explain that a little bit more as we get further into the video. On Wednesday morning, I was supposed to have my blood drawn for a very specific test. Unfortunately, the lab technician called in sick, so I was not able to have my labs done. I was being tested for a condition called Cushing syndrome, which is basically a syndrome that produces the stress hormone in your body. So bear with me as I tell this story, because I am under a significant amount of stress. I can't stress that enough. If you've ever seen those movies with the weird uncle who has heart problems and he has to take medications all the time because he's under too much stress, yeah, that's me. I'm not taking heart medications or anything like that, so don't worry, but just to kind of give you a visual, yeah, that's me right now. So the blood test didn't happen, and at this point I was losing my mind, so I called Deschutes County Mental Health Services. And it's one thing to say you're losing your mind, but it's another thing to logically know and comprehend when you are experiencing moments of insanity. This video might seem pretty dramatic. I am going to be talking about a lot of things, and I'm going to be using a lot of big words, some of them medical terms. So if you've got any questions, I do encourage you, do your research and leave me a comment below so that I might be able to answer your questions and further explain what I'm talking about. On November 10th, I went to Deschutes County Mental Health Services for a 1-hour assessment. I was in the assessment room for 3 hours with the individual because he described this to be a severe case. Honestly, I have to laugh about this because my husband and I joke all the time that I'm crazy, and now that it's coming out that I'm actually legitimately crazy, he's saying, no, you're not crazy, you know, it was just a joke, but I'll let you guys make up your own mind. So throughout this 3-hour assessment, I had to write everything down because I'm going through a lot right now, and it's hard for me to retain the information and then give it at the same time. So I wanted to make sure I wrote everything down so I could be as thorough as possible. In this 3-hour assessment, it was pretty incredible because I talked about things in this room that I have never shared with another individual before, not even my husband. And not intentionally. My husband and I, we don't have any secrets. He's very knowledgeable in my past and what I've gone through as far as sex abuse, physical abuse, so there's no secrets there, but when you've gone through as much as I have to overwhelm an individual, especially the one that you love the most and care about the most, that's a pretty traumatic thing. And so there's just not appropriate times to always bring up certain issues. But I am going to go over them right now today. So in this assessment, we pretty much discussed my entire life from the time I was 9 months old until present day. And as you can imagine, that is a lot of information. And it wasn't because I was just offering this information. He was actually asking a lot of questions. It was a really good open dialogue. It wasn't just me talking the whole time. So that was really cool. Okay, well, so what did we discuss? In this 3-hour assessment, he came to the conclusion that I am suffering from a condition called OCPD. It's not OCD, but it is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. It's a little bit different. I don't ever feel compulsed to wash my hands a lot or touch doorknobs. You know, I don't have to count things so many times to feel validated or assured. But I do have issues with maintaining a perfect lifestyle or trying to always maintain a certain level of control in my life. I am extremely hypersensitive and hypervigilant. As the therapist described it, in a relaxed state of mind, I am on DEFCON 5 at all times. I don't know how to relax, I guess, and that is why I chose to seek help, because I knew that I was struggling and I knew that I needed help. So yeah, I went ahead and made a call. I had an appointment, got an assessment, and these are the issues that we discussed: life trauma and abuse, childhood sex abuse, parental abuse, ex-spouse abuse, church abuse. My kindergarten teacher abused a classmate. My cousin sexually abused me, chronic physical pain, my car accident, my first memory, which was at 9 months old. My parents passed. My parents, growing up, sex abuse, orgies, drug parties, lack of empathy and compassion. Basically, I have a hard time maintaining friendships because if my friend is 300 pounds eating a chocolate piece of cake, begging to lose weight, I'm oftentimes the friend to take it away, slap her butt, and put her in the gym because I am just a fixer and I don't really tolerate with people who don't want to take control of their lives to better themselves. So we also discussed that. I have issues that I am really working through, so I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just letting you know that these are issues that we discussed. Being safe now, being able to be vulnerable, being at a place where I am comfortable in my life, where I can open up and expose these things about my past. I'm not successful usually unless challenged. We also discussed money, my financial well-being, how I live and spend money, if I'm frugal or if I hoard money. We talked about how I took a summer high school completion program and it was supposed to be 3 months and I finished the course in like 2, maybe 3 weeks. I was raped in a bathroom when I was 4 or 5 years old by my mom's ex-boyfriend, and actually it didn't start in the bathroom. It was full-on sex. I was having full-on vaginal penis sex at a very young age, and then he would make me take a bath with him afterwards. So I was also raped in a bathroom at the age of 26 by my ex-husband. No one knows this. I think maybe just a couple people who were at the court hearing know this. I faint a lot in the bathroom. When I have episodes of blacking out and repressed memories, they come to me in a bathroom, and I didn't even make that distinction until yesterday in this therapy session. I was abused by my grandpa's wife. I also discussed that my grandfather was stabbed in his own driveway. I did not personally see the stabbing, but we were there for his recovery process in the hospital. So that was a pretty traumatic situation. At a young age, I had a pastor who had an affair. So that was also a pretty traumatic situation when you grow to love someone and have a relationship with someone and they become like your uncle, especially when you don't have close friends and family around. It's a pretty traumatic situation when all of a sudden they go away and you never see or hear from them ever again. I had a babysitter as a child who would tie me to a chair and force me to watch horror movies as a form of punishment. Basically, from a very young age, I have been in survival mode, or I have been in basically, like, my mind has always been in a state that if we were to go to war tomorrow, that I could take care of myself and that I would be okay. I'm not a veteran. I've never been in a war. I've never served in any type of war before, so I can't relate to any of our soldiers, but I have experienced a long life of traumatic events, which has led up to this point now with me being diagnosed with PTSD and OCPD. OCPD is basically where you try to maintain a high level of perfectionism to have some type of control in your life because you have never had stability or dependability in your life before. So this is your way, this is your brain's way of trying to maintain control before chaos can even happen. So, if you will, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Sherlock Holmes, and I don't want you to think that I'm speaking from a place of high intelligence because that is not where I'm coming from at all. But I've never seen Sherlock Holmes up until about a year ago. And my husband, I would try to explain to him things that I was going through throughout this healing process, And I would try to explain to him that I feel like I'm hypersensitive. When I walk into a room, it's as if I'm Sherlock Holmes. I can't look at your shoes and tell you that you're a gardener. I can't look at your ring and tell you how long you've been married. But I can go into a room and I can tell you who's having an affair. I can tell you who's lying to who. I know how to break down behavioral traits and characteristics, and I see minute details that most people don't see. So yeah, that's just kind of the easiest way for me to be able to explain that to you. Like I said, I'm not coming from this place of high intelligence. Honestly, I don't even know like how his brain thinks that way. But that is the closest relation that I can give to you as to what I'm going through or what my daily life is actually like. Moving on. Have you guys ever seen United States of Tara? This is another one that I can always really relate to. My name is Tara, which that already I have a connection to, and this is where I might start crying because this woman, this is an extreme case of multiple personality disorder. There's actually a scientific name for it, but I don't have that right now. This show is supposed to be funny, but it is very relatable to someone who struggles with mental illness. You go through these manic episodes and you put your family through these extreme range of emotions, and yet in this show, this family is always there for her. They always come back to her, loving her, supporting her through this, and that is what I have. I have an amazing family who is helping me heal through this, who is understanding what I'm going through, and honestly, that is the coolest experience to have. If you haven't seen the show United States of Tara, I do encourage you to check it out. It does have vulgar language and it is a very adult show, but if you are an adult and you can handle that, then I recommend watching the show. I feel like I'm just avoiding talking about the issues now at this point, but alright, so I don't know how long this video is going to be, by the way, but here we go. My childhood consisted of mostly my love for helping people. I was always involved with seniors or children who had disabilities. I worked for my lunch in the cafeteria school lunch program so that I could eat. I used to be big into the social scene, wanting to have a lot of friends. I essentially pushed my way into the crowds, if you will. I didn't really have a lot of solid friends. My friends were mostly there because I was just there. I was a childhood bully. It got to the point of extreme when I was about a sophomore in high school, right before I dropped out and chose to pursue my high school diploma through homeschool. I was always a terrible student. By the way, I fidget a lot. You should know this if you've seen my videos. I was a terrible student growing up. I could never excel at school. I think my best grade, I always got like a B, maybe an A in art. I don't think I ever got an A in art just because I was marked down all the time for talking. But pretty much my grades were D's and F's all through school from beginning to end. But growing up, I always was fascinated with books. I dove myself into books because that was the most relatable for me. I mostly read books about history, science, important people throughout our history, vigilantes, heroes, if you will. I read a lot of books that would have gotten me in trouble if my parents would have found out. I read a lot of books regarding like witchcraft, psychic readings, demons, outer body experiences, heaven, hell, pretty intense books regarding or surrounding spirituality. I was always intrigued with the spiritual realm growing up. My influences as far as, you know, TV shows, my babysitters were Oprah, Dr. Phil, Reading Rainbow, I loved Arthur, and I mean babysitters because my mom was usually napping during that time, so it was an opportunity for us to watch those type of television shows. Unfortunately, because of the type of home that I grew up in, there was a lot of talk regarding the end times and going to hell, so I watched the movies Left Behind series at a very young age, which was super like weird. It was always easier for me to talk to adults rather than children. I found that when I was talking to kids my own age that I could never really relate or understand. So all of my friends throughout my entire life have always been older than me. I've always tried to date men older than me because I seem to relate with older people. So my first memory was when I was 9 months old. That is what I was told about 8 or 9 years ago when I met my biological dad again for the first time. I explained that I had this memory of us living in a garage, in someone else's garage, and what was interesting to me about that house is it was kind of on like an incline, and the driveway plateaued, so there was a type of edge to this property, and so that the driveway could level out and be even. The garage door was open about this much because it wouldn't close all the way, and there was bedding in the garage. We were living in these people's garage. I remember eating pizza at this house, and that's pretty much my last memory of this house, but it is very vivid and it sticks out to me as a very prominent memory. Why do I remember this house? I have no clue. After that, I have a lot of memories with my biological dad and my mom. So my mom remarried when I was like 7 or 8, but my mom was married to my biological dad for several years, and they traveled a lot. It was really not a stable situation. My biological dad was with my mom at the time that my dad was having affairs with like wealthy women. That's what I can assume at this point. Here's my assumption regarding that now that I'm 29 years old and I am an adult and I can put the puzzle pieces together for myself. My dad, I believe, was a gigolo, and possibly drug dealing was involved. But when I say gigolo, I mean he was the full-on, like he went after wealthy women to get their houses and their money and their cars. There's one particular incident where my mom was still with my dad, but we had no place to go. She had no home, and he was living in his mistress's lake house across the lake from her house. You know? I was a child. I was like maybe 2, 3 years old, and if I am like shady on the details, I'm really sorry, but this is what I can remember vividly. And like I said, I'm not speaking on the behalf of these individuals. This is just what I can logically put together in my mind right now out of the memories that I have had. My mom and dad, before they got divorced, they had a very open relationship. I believe that they were swingers. My mom went on a date with a gentleman, and my dad was at the door letting her leave with this gentleman. They had sex orgy parties. I don't know how often, but I do remember one very vivid circumstance. We were in the kitchen of this, the kitchen was like a galley kitchen, and this woman was Hawaiian. I don't know. I want to put up air quotes all the time because this is just what I was told. This woman was Hawaiian and her tits hung down to her belly button. And I was so little, and I remember being so interested and intrigued. She was standing in the kitchen in jeans at this point, not fully naked. And so this was just a really natural thing for my parents. Long story short, I wind up in bed. They put us to bed, me and my sisters, and I am sleeping on this top bunk. While the bunk meets the edge of the door to the room. And so at night, when we're all supposed to be sleeping, I open the door and I crack it. And on the TV there is a porno going on, and there is a living room full of naked people having sex with each other.